let me know when he's ready.
He's ready, you're good.
So I call to order the meeting of the Audit Committee for UCIDA. Purpose of today's meeting is to approve, well, first to get a quick presentation from PKHB on the audit of the financials for UCIDA, and for this committee to ask you any questions that we have, and then to make a recommendation out as to accepting the financials audit or not. And then we'll roll into the CRC after that. So I have in front of, Jim, you have in front of you
Do you want to do a roll call?
yeah, we can do that.
You here? I'm here.
We're both here. Faye
Okay.
is excused?
Yes.
Okay. So we have a quorum. What else administratively should I do, Rose?
The minutes.
Do the minutes.
So I'll entertain a motion,
I'll make a motion we accept this procedure here.
and I'll second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, Rose, for
Okay.
reminding me. By the way, those minutes are from last year, right?
Yeah, October was the last one.
Right, okay. All right. So what I said before, and I'd like you guys to give a brief summary of what you have here, how it fits into the entire process of auditing our financials, as well as what we have to do for the ABO, so where this fits in that entire process, and what you found, if anything.
Okay, quick intro. My name is Brad Cummings. I'm a partner at UHY, formerly PKHB. I've been a partner for almost 20 years, been there for 26 years, straight out of college. Been doing audits of not-for-profits, governments since inception there, since I hired and hired. You all know Scott. First of all, I'd like to thank you all for hiring us and letting us service you. We'll have a brief overview of the financials, any questions you guys have, so we can bring it to the full board. But this is basically the governance letter, communication letter that's going to be provided to you. We're waiting on that until we get the Paris reports done, so we're not going to comment on anything that we know of at this time. Everything went smoothly in the audit, on both audits. Thank you, Rose, for working with Scott directly, and you all know who Scott is. He's the manager, senior on the jobs. So basically, these reports are kind of going through quickly. The independent audit report, which is a gas report on page 9. This is a standard unmodified report, which basically the 9 and 10 is standard verbiage from the government auditing standards requirements. No findings, risk assessment, it goes through risk assessment, no findings, unmodified report. The MD&A on pages 11, 12, and 13. This is a great overview that government audits provide to the readers of the financial statements. It kind of gives you some financial agency highlights of the agencies. It goes through things that you've done in the past year, and this is a comparison of financial statements. So we're basically reporting for 2019, but it's also comparing 2018's financial overview too. So these next 3 pages are really important. It kind of gives, like I said, the reader an overview of the financials and the agencies and the projects and that you guys done over the course of the years.
Just jump in, while work with Rose and some of the wording, just to kind of fine tune the, as far as the new projects and the job numbers to make sure it's lined up with what you're expecting. So, and consistent with the project's applications.
So the books are in order?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Clean audit?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, what we do is basically go through as a risk assessment audit. We go through, make sure. I mean, you guys had not that much activity going through the IDA. So what we do is we do basically some compliance testing on the requirements for the jobs and all that within the projects, and also we do a financial overview.
Is there 2 separate engagement letters, one for the IBA, one for the CRC?
Yes.
Okay. This is just a procedural question.
Yep.
And I don't mean to get off track. The CRC is such a small entity. I mean, I'm involved in some ways with a not-for-profit. And the question came up the other day. If you do shared services, what account would you write the check out of, or should you create a separate account for, just for doing it and then break it up percentage-wise?
I mean, I would set up a separate account, just because they're separate agencies, separate,
Right.
requirements, separate filings.
Sometimes easier isn't, it's
Yeah,
not
to
easier.
track. Yeah, exactly.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, getting back to the question, I mean, obviously there's different requirements, you know, you wouldn't think these things would need audits, but, the Paris requirements, OMB requirements are just, you know, ridiculous sometimes.
It's funny, Rose and I had that conversation 2 weeks ago, and she was like yelling at me because the IDA is paying for stuff that we should be charging off to
Well,
the
yeah, you know,
CRC.
Yeah,
I mean,
and that's very common.
Yeah.
in my mind, we have something set up where I said, well, you know, how do you end up breaking this out unless, you know, for me, I always like to make things small, nice, neat box. You don't want redundancy of services and you just, but it's all the same, it is what it is,
Right.
you know? I mean,
It's our money,
yeah.
just in two different
Right,
pots.
like we were saying how frustrating it is to have 4 meetings today for,
Yeah,
We'll talk to the governor, see what he can do.
yeah.
good luck.
Make that call, please.
Yeah, you're in charge.
So I don't bore you in the details of the financials, I mean, you all know the numbers here, but going through them quickly,
What page are
page 6. This is the statement of net position, that's what it's called
Our
here, basic,
page,
page 14 of 29, sorry. This is a comparison, basically a balance sheet, but it's a statement of net position, shows your assets and your liabilities. From 18 to 19, it really only changes, you guys took some of your cash and put it into a CD. Very little activity as far as the balance sheet, accounts receivables, accounts payables, and then there's an escrow payable. All your money is obviously unrestricted, can be put to use wherever, however the board feels, you know, the mission is. Statement of page 15 to 29 is a statement of revenues and expenses, basically a profit and loss. Shows your project revenues, application fees, and then your expenses related to that. Your change in that position is your net profit or your surplus for the year.
And there's no changes, right, from the financials they've already seen and approved, everything
Right,
made
yeah.
sense, right?
Any recommendations on things that need to be tightened up on? Financial controls internal to the office of the executive director?
In terms of the expense side of things, I mean, you have your procurement policy, the board sees pretty much everything. Either Randall's gonna look at it or it's gonna be approved by the board. And then as long as Rose isn't writing checks and actually signing for them, that's someone else, I mean, that you have good segregation in that respect. I think on the revenue side, even then, most of your revenues coming in are gonna be from projects. That's gonna be, you know, the board's gonna know what those projects are, what the fees are, and be able to build an expectation. If you start to expand beyond those activities, and if there is anything that might be more centralized to what Rose does, then you might wanna look at something more detailed.
There'll be more in 2020 because we started doing a lot more. We have the annual administrative fees, we have the CPA fee for things, so there will be more activity and more to
Maybe,
look at.
unless I'm wrong, we're talking procedurally what you do here, not outstanding providers, correct?
Correct.
Yeah, but I just meant, you know, if there were fees that were waived for certain projects, for example, that we should probably have some documentation for that.
I think it's snapshotting it out 3 years, because there's been a, if it's all right, Chair, there's been a real metamorphosis here on bringing ourselves into our parameters, I guess you would say.
Compliant.
So, you know, to do a typical 5-year look back, 10-year look back, 3-year look back, I mean, we're creating a baseline. So, you know, I think that's why we're really, want to make sure we dot the i's and cross the t's.
And it's difficult with a
Yeah.
smaller organization when you have one person doing everything, the segregation, that's why the audit committee's gotta be a little more involved.
Yeah,
You're not gonna go out and hire somebody else or, you know. it's-
You haven't spent much time with Rick, have you?
No, I was talking about that, I think with Randall, maybe with Rick a little bit too, about there's only so much staff, so it can be the same person handling the deposit, taking it to the bank, putting it in QuickBooks, but there is still the oversight of the board, and obviously, like we discussed, Rick gets the full general ledger every month, so there's no
Yeah.
secrets.
There's certain, some no-nos that just can't take place, but other than
Right.
that, you just gotta make sure everybody's involved.
Well, one of my priorities this year is to look at perhaps getting a part-time CFO. I'm still thinking it through,
You know anyone?
but then what, you know, bring it to the board and see if we can't get somebody to do part-time CFO, to handle a lot of this stuff so that it doesn't fall to Rose to.
What I've seen in the past is, you know, the board or the audit committee just get somebody on board that has that financial experience, so they can kind of do it for you, you know?
Yeah.
It's difficult to find though, especially when it's volunteer.
Well, we do, the issue is the way that it's set up under the bylaws and
Yeah.
whatnot, there's the requirement, I mean, you know, you think about the treasurer basically does nothing.
Yeah.
It's strange.
It's really weird, I mean, I don't even think we need a treasurer, because they do nothing, I mean, not nothing, but the goal is, you know, he's chair of the audit committee, which is totally fine. But there's no other responsibility, there's no check writing, it's all the
Unless it's
responsibility.
prohibited, you can certainly work within the parameters and create something from the,
Yeah,
you know?
yeah,
Well, right, we've kind of pushed some of the CFO stuff onto him, like checking the general ledger.
One thing I know for sure, public law in New York State is vague. It's written in
Yeah.
black and white, but it gets red and gray, you know?
So, I'll entertain a motion
I'll make that motion.
to recommend out to the board, the audit committee recommend to the general board that the financials done by KHB now, whatever you guys are calling it,
HY.
are in order, and we're satisfied with the operations that were audited, and satisfied with the operations in Rose's area.
I'll make a motion we accept as presented.
And I'll second that. All in favor?
I am.
I am. Okay. I'll entertain a motion to close the meeting.
No,
Do you
no,
wanna
not
know-
yet, you gotta do the,
The reports that were listed below that are not something prepared by UHY, they were done,
I did these, so we did these last year, I did these this year.
Oh,
I made a few
So-
changes, very little. But I wanted to ask a question on the,
What did you
it was
change?
some typos,
Oh.
major. But there, I wanted to ask if, the risks. I didn't know if we had looked at, I imagine it was the same from last year.
Yep,
But there's a couple differences, so the independence of the IDA, I guess, I didn't know if that should be considered a high risk still.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
What's being referred to is starting on page 25.
Yes, yeah,
And
26
thanks for
around,
reminding me.
sorry.
There's a series of reports that we have to
Yeah, there's a,
post, and it's actually part of the ABO reporting.
yep,
And so this was prepared, we did it last year.
Hold on a second. Brad, Scott, if you wanna look in the board packet, it's page 26. And then maybe if you have any opinion on the risk assessment for what we had marked as low, moderate, and high.
Well, the independence of the IBA, I mean, that's, you know, you do have the same work committee, you have the same board, you have, I mean, it's common, you know, in those things, it happens all over, it's just you gotta make sure that you have the right policies in place, reimbursements and all that stuff in there, that it's, you know, because you do have the same board, so you're kind of going back and forth with it, so, I would keep that as high.
Okay,
I mean, the rest of the stuff is fine with me.
okay.
We're really not dealing with a lot of activity right now, those things may change over this course.
Yeah, no, I just figured you guys are the experts on that, so it made
I
sense
don't
to
know.
just double
Think
check,
so, right?
right?
Yeah.
So there's, page 25 is the mission goals, which is a little bit, not much different from last year. Page 26 and 27 are the internal controls that Brent just referenced. Page 28, there's nothing to report. And page 29, there's nothing to report in terms of investments or real property. So those are on.
Yeah, I mean, you have investments because they're CDs, but there's really nothing you have to worry about. I mean, you're investing in a CD, but I would recommend probably getting something, there's boilerplate investment policies you can have out there, but you're not dealing with any of that stuff right now.
I think we do have
Yeah, we
it.
do.
Oh.
This is just a.
Oh, no
Yeah.
investments, no investments.
no, this is
I
investments.
mean, your
Yeah, we
investment,
don't have
your
any,
CDs would be considered an investment.
really?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
so I think, so I'm wondering, so I think we may have to modify that page 28 or 29 to indicate that we did review, that we have no investments. absent of the CDs.
Right.
Okay. And we would just need to mention it.
Okay.
Do, in the investment report, do we
I
then
am.
mention like the account, how specific do you get in the investment report?
In your investment policy?
No, investment report.
Oh, I thought that would just be,
We have-
just say that, you know.
So I just changed
Say
it.
absent of these CDs.
I just changed it, the
Okay.
Ulster County Industrial Development Agency had no investments to report in 2019 absent
Yes, that's fine.
its CDs
Yeah.
at Key Bank, what, what
No,
bank is
Bank
it?
of Freetown.
Bank of Freetown.
Okay.
And we report those out every month. Every monthly meeting, we report those out.
Yes.
Do we need to report, we have securities that back up the assets of the IDA that are being held by,
Yeah, I mean, they're not
Bank of-
ours, yeah, he's talking
So
about
they're
the,
not.
in lieu of.
under New York State, you have to have X amount of securities,
The bonds.
AAA or
Yeah.
treasuries. That's not included. All right,
Yeah, they're not ours, it's just,
Right.
yeah,
they're being held for us, but
yeah,
to cover us, right?
yeah,
All right, so I think that's it. Thanks for reminding me about these other reports.
yeah.
So, we should probably approve, you guys should probably approve these
With the.
as part of
Okay, so,
the thing,
One
so.
exception.
so you know what, how about I amend the previous motion to include these reports? So my motion was to approve the financial review by PKHB. I'd like to amend it to also include those additional reports, which include mission controls, internal controls assessment, investment report, and real property report.
I'll second that.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, thank you, Rose, for reminding me about that. So I entertain a motion to end the
Make that motion.
IDA portion, second it, all in favor? All right,
At 8:47.
and I now open, do we have the CRC?
Yep, you should have the packets out already.
Thank you. I'll now open the meeting of the
Hold on.
Ulster County.
Can you stop this one and do one more? Yeah, thank you.
Get one of those things to do that.
We're new to the live streaming too, guys.
You got like a delay button or anything?